I never thought a simple glass of green juice would be the thing that dismantled my entire family. But as I stood there in my kitchen, watching my son's face turn from a forced smile to a mask of pure terror, I realized that the truth is often more bitter than any vegetable drink. I had the glass halfway to my lips when I caught that familiar, cloying scent of almond, a scent that shouldn't have been there, and I looked my son straight in the eyes and told him that his wife had already tasted this batch earlier in the morning. The moment those words left my mouth, the glass slipped from his trembling fingers, shattering against the tile, and the secret he had been hiding for years came crashing down with it. His life collapsed in the span of 5 minutes, and now I'm being called a manipulative monster for revealing a truth that was already killing him from the inside out. Was I wrong for what I did, for playing a little game to expose a massive betrayal? Or would you have sat there and drank whatever they put in front of you just to keep the peace? Please, tell me if I went too far, because I'm still trying to process how my own flesh and blood could reach such a dark, desperate place. To understand why a glass of juice felt like a death sentence, you have to understand the dynamic between my son, Leo, and his wife, Clara. Leo has always been a sensitive soul, the kind of man who would give you the shirt off his back and then apologize for the wrinkles. I raised him to be kind and respectful, but somewhere along the way, that kindness turned into a dangerous level of passivity. When he met Clara 6 years ago, I wanted to like her, I really did. She was beautiful, sharp, witted, and seemed to have a drive that Leo lacked. But as the years went by, I watched that drive turn into total domination. Clara didn't just join our family, she colonized Leo's life. She decided where they lived, how they spent their money, and slowly but surely, she began to prune away his relationships with anyone she couldn't control. I was at the top of her list. It started with subtle comments about my old-fashioned ways and escalated into a full-scale campaign to paint me as an overbearing mother-in-law. I tried to stay in my lane, I really did, because I didn't want to lose my son, but the more I stepped back, the more Clara pushed forward. About a year ago, Leo and Clara moved into a house just 10 minutes away from me, which should have been a blessing, but it felt like a tactical maneuver. Clara had recently become obsessed with holistic wellness and biohacking. Every time I visited, she was mixing some new powder or forcing Leo to undergo some extreme fast. Leo looked worse than ever. He was losing weight. He had dark circles under his eyes, and he seemed to be in a constant state of brain fog. When I'd ask him if he was okay, Clara would jump in and say, "He's just detoxing, Mary. His body is finally getting rid of all the toxins you raised him on." It was insulting, but more than that, it was alarming. I noticed that Clara never seemed to participate in these health crazes herself. She'd cook these elaborate, clean meals for Leo, and then order takeout for herself when she thought I wasn't looking. I started to suspect that her obsession with his health was less about wellness and more about keeping him weak and dependent. She had him convinced that he was naturally sickly, and that only she knew how to keep him alive. The tension reached a boiling point during a Sunday brunch at their place 3 months ago. I arrived early and let myself in with the spare key Leo had given me in secret. I heard them arguing in the kitchen. Clara's voice was like a whip, lashing out at him for sneaking a piece of bread at work. She was telling him he was weak, that his body was failing because he didn't have the discipline to follow her protocols. Leo was sobbing, actually sobbing, apologizing for eating a sandwich. I stood in the hallway, my heart breaking, realizing that my son wasn't in a marriage. He was in a cult of one. When I finally walked in, Clara smoothed her hair and gave me that fake, porcelain smile. "Oh, Mary, you're early. Leo was just feeling a bit emotional today. You know how he gets." I didn't say anything, but I saw the pitcher of dark, swampy green juice on the counter. Clara poured a glass for Leo and insisted he drink it right then and there to reset his system. He drank it like a man taking medicine he hated, his hand shaking the whole time. I started doing my own research. I noticed that after Leo drank her special concoctions, he would become incredibly lethargic. He'd fall asleep in the middle of a conversation, or he'd complain about his heart racing. I tried to talk to Mark, my brother who is a retired nurse, and he told me to be careful. "Mary, people use wellness as a cover for a lot of dark things," he warned me. I decided I needed proof. Over the next few weeks, I became a bit of a spy. I'd drop by unannounced. I'd offer to help Clara with the supplements. And I started paying close attention to the bottles in her pantry. I found a bottle of what looked like herbal extract, but the label was hand-written and messy. One afternoon, while Clara was in the shower, I took a tiny sample of her green juice base and took it to a friend who works in a lab. The results weren't enough to call the police. It was mostly concentrated sedatives and certain herbs that, in high doses, cause extreme fatigue and confusion. But it was enough to confirm my worst fears. She wasn't killing him, but she was keeping him managed. She was keeping him in a state where he couldn't think for himself or find the strength to leave her. But the twist, the thing that truly broke the story wide open, wasn't just the juice. It was what I found out about the money. Leo had a substantial inheritance from his grandfather, a trust fund that was supposed to be for their future children or their retirement. Clara had been telling Leo that the fund was underperforming and that they needed to reinvest it into her various wellness startups. In reality, she was siphoning the money into an offshore account in her maiden name. She was preparing for a life without him while keeping him too drugged up to notice the bank statements. I knew that if I just told Leo, he wouldn't believe me. Clara had spent years conditioning him to think I was a liar who wanted to destroy their happiness. I had to make him see the truth in a way that he couldn't ignore. I had to make the predator stumble. So that's the situation I was in. I was watching my son being slowly erased by a woman who was both drugging him and robbing him blind. I had the lab results. I had the bank trail I'd spent weeks uncovering through a private investigator, and I had a plan. I invited myself over for a reconciliation lunch, telling Clara I wanted to learn more about her juices so I could support Leo's journey. Before I tell you about the moment the glass broke and the truth came out, I want you to pause right now and comment below. If you saw your child being manipulated and physically weakened by a spouse, would you go to the police immediately, or would you try to trick the spouse into revealing themselves like I did? Do you think a mother has the right to interfere this deeply, or should I have let Leo figure it out on his own? I'm reading every single comment because I still wonder if there was a cleaner way to handle this. The day of the lunch arrived. Clara was in high spirits, clearly feeling triumphant that she had finally broken me. She was bustling around the kitchen, preparing a special triple, green vitality blast, for Leo and me. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. I saw her pull that same unlabeled bottle from the back of the cupboard and add a heavy dose to Leo's glass. She was so confident, so sure of her power, that she didn't even notice me switching the glasses when she turned to get the napkins. But I didn't just switch them. I had brought a small vial of a harmless, bitter-tasting food coloring agent that I slipped into the glass she intended for Leo. Leo walked into the room, looking like a ghost of the man he used to be. Clara handed him the juice with a kiss on the cheek. "Drink up, honey. It'll help with that headache you've had." Leo took the glass, but I stopped him. "Wait, Leo," I said, my voice calm but sharp. "Clara told me this batch was special. In fact, she told me she already tasted it this morning to make sure the balance was perfect. Didn't you, Clara?" Clara froze. I saw the gears turning in her head. She knew she hadn't tasted it. She knew what was in that glass. She laughed nervously. "Oh, Mary, you must have misheard me. I haven't had my portion yet." I smiled at her, a cold, hard smile. "That's funny, because when I walked in, I saw you sipping from this exact pitcher. In fact, I'm so impressed by your dedication to the recipe that I think Leo should let you finish this glass first, as a tribute to your hard work." I pushed the glass toward her. Leo looked between us, confused. "Mom, what are you doing? It's just juice." I looked at my son, my heart aching. "Leo, if this juice is so healthy, why is Clara's face turning white? Why won't she take a single sip to show us how good it is?" Clara tried to grab the glass to dump it, but I caught her wrist. "No, Clara, let's show Leo. Let's show him why you're so healthy while he can barely stand up." Clara snapped. She started screaming that I was insane, that I was trying to poison her. Leo was standing there, the fog finally starting to lift because the scene was so chaotic. "Clara, just take a sip," Leo said, his voice small but clear. "If it's the same stuff you give me every day, what's the problem?" That was it. The ultimatum. Clara looked at the juice, then at Leo, then at me. In a fit of rage, she didn't drink it. She threw the glass at the wall. But in her panic, she let slip the one thing she should have kept hidden. "You don't understand," she shrieked at Leo. "You're too weak to handle the world. I have to keep you this way. If you were strong, you'd leave me, and I won't let that happen. Not after everything I've built." Leo stared at her as if he was seeing a stranger. The "everything I've built" part triggered the final move of my plan. I pulled out the folder from my bag, the bank statements showing the offshore transfers and the lab reports. I laid them on the table. "She didn't build it, Leo. She stole it. While she was keeping you drugged and tired, she was emptying your grandfather's legacy." Leo picked up the papers. I watched him read the numbers, watch him see his wife's maiden name next to his missing millions. The silence in the room was heavier than the scream that followed. Leo didn't cry this time. He didn't apologize. He looked at Clara and said 4 words that ended it all. "Get out of here." Clara tried to fight. She tried to claim the money was for their future. But the evidence was undeniable. Leo called the police right there. Because of the sedatives found in the house and the medical evidence of his prolonged lethargy, combined with the clear paper trail of the financial fraud, Clara was arrested. The detox she was forcing on Leo was legally classified as a form of domestic abuse and poisoning. The fallout was massive. The story hit our local news because of the wellness angle and Clara's friends, and business contacts vanished overnight. She's currently awaiting trial, and her lawyers are trying to plead mental instability. But the bank records show a very calculated, very sane mind at work. As for Leo, the road to recovery has been long. It took months for the toxins to fully leave his system, and even longer for his mind to recover from the gaslighting. He moved back in with me for a while, and I watched him slowly become the man I remembered. He's regained the weight, the spark is back in his eyes, and he's currently working with a forensic accountant to recover what he can of his inheritance. Our relationship is stronger than ever, though there's a quiet sadness there for the years he lost. He told me later that he had suspected something was wrong for a long time, but he was too tired to care. That was her real crime. She stole his ability to care about his own life. The moral of this mess is that love should never feel like a heavy weight that makes you smaller. If someone claims to be your everything while making sure you are nothing, they aren't your partner. They are your captor. I lost a daughter-in-law, but I got my son back from the brink of a slow, quiet disappearance. I don't regret the green juice trap for a second. Sometimes you have to play the villain in someone else's twisted story just to be the hero in your own family's reality. So, I hope my story serves as a wake-up call for anyone who feels like they're losing themselves in a relationship. Don't ignore the bitter taste in your life. Like this video if you think I was right to expose Clara the way I did. Subscribe for more stories about family secrets, revenge, and the long road to justice. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did Leo deserve to know the truth this way, or was I too manipulative? I'll see you all in the next story.